What's good, everyone? It's your homie Hermit. We're back with another reaction. This time we got something different, but it's a route that I figured it's very a good route to go because it's Memoirs of World War II, and I think this would be something amazing to start reacting to, so that these stories of the men and women of the greatest generation, those they fought with and against, their stories can be told and others can hear it who probably or possibly may not look out and try to find them on their own. You know, the first one I chose is the most popular one, which is a German soldier retelling his story of World War II. And from the description, it says that he was drafted into the Hitler Youth. I don't know what age, but he's probably like 13, I'm going to guess. But let's hop into this.
The full name is Gert Friedrich Franz Schmitz. And I remember on September the 1st, 1939, Hitler was on the radio telling that the war started. Since 5 o'clock this morning, our troops marching into Poland, doing whatever they do best. 6 months later, Hitler marched into the France.
An interesting story I've heard from the invasion of Poland and why it was so short. When the German tanks started rolling in, I heard that the Polish army sent soldiers on horses with lances to fight those tanks. Like, how do you expect to win that kind of fight, bro?
War started.
I mean, tanks were still a generally new thing. They had only been around for World War One, and from my understanding, the tanks in World War One had a bad habit of like exploding on you.
Hitler was on the radio telling that the war started. Since 5 o'clock this morning, our troops marching into Poland, doing whatever they do best. 6 months later, Hitler marched into the France. The British came and the Americans came into the war. And I talked to my grandpa, and he told me, he said, if they want to win the war, it don't look too good. He said, don't say that, Grandpa. We cannot lose the war. That was not even remotely in my mind that we ever could lose a war, because we were so conditioned politically. Right. Hitler controlled the newspapers, they controlled the radio, and Goebbels, the propaganda minister, he controlled everything else. And we listened to the news, and they told us all about going on in the Western Front and how successful they are and all that. And then we walked outside and we heard the guns.
Oh, wow.
And you say, well, that is too close from what they tell us where they're supposed to be.
Right. Before we even get further into this, I can tell this is going to be an amazing experience. So as soon as you're done watching this, be sure to hop on over to Memoirs of World War II and drop a subscribe for them.
Following their defeat in the First World War, Germany was reeling from the harsh conditions of a peace treaty that left the country shamed and buried in economic crisis.
Treaty of Versailles.
But in 1933, when a radical new leader rose to power, promising to restore Germany and place it at the forefront of world powers, the people were captivated.
Right.
Adolf Hitler's reign brought swift economic relief, and
if women were out selling their bodies just so they could feed their children, and they were burning their money to stay warm. I mean, if a dude came out and he was like, this is the problem, the answer to all our problems, and he fixed the economy as quickly as he did by building a war machine, I would imagine it would be hard to be entranced up until he started speaking all that hatred about the Jews. I don't know how immediate that was, though.
Country shamed and buried in economic crisis. But in 1933, when a radical new leader rose to power, promising to restore Germany and place it at the forefront of world powers, the people were captivated. Adolf Hitler's reign brought swift economic relief, and the German military was quickly on the rise. but his radical political party enforced totalitarianism over the government and the public, making Nazism synonymous with the German way of life.
Right.
They had everything organized. You couldn't get lost or fall through the cracks. You know, there were no cracks. You were part of it if you liked it or not. I got drafted into the Hitler Youth when I was 10 years old.
Dude, there's an amazing movie out there called Jojo Rabbit. It's real funny too. If you haven't watched it, you gotta watch it. It's about a little kid in the Hitler Youth.
I got drafted into the Hitler Youth when I was 10 years old. And they gave us a uniform and all that, you know.
Like thousands of other German boys, Gert Schmitz was swept up in the Hitler Youth. But the draft was not without its benefits. Upon graduation, Gert was offered the opportunity to fly with the Luftwaffe.
They said, do you want to go to a jet pilot training school? We have one in Fulda, Germany. And you go over there and you start training for flying Messerschmitt 262 jets. He says, shoot, yeah.
Right?
But before he would reach the airfield, the Allied bombing campaign would reach it first.
And when I got up there, the hangars were bombed, the runways were bombed, the airplanes were bombed.
Oh,
And
wow.
there was nothing left for us to do. And they said, well, we'll temporarily assign you to a paratrooper outfit and send you to the Western Front. So we got on the train that afternoon. We ended up in Pasewalk. We talked to the people, the local people there. They heard on the news that the Russians had just come from the south, from the east and south, and cut off that air base where we were. And that was bad news.
Right.
Gert may have escaped capture by the Russians, but now he was headed to the Western Front, where the British and Americans were on the advance, and the German army was in disarray.
That was chaos. The whole German armed forces was in total chaos. We didn't know where they were. I don't know where the headquarters were. You didn't know where the real front was or anything.
Oh, wow.
You know, you're so busy surviving and fighting. We either won here or we lost over there and then go to the next. We don't know the overall picture. We have no idea what happened.
I didn't realize the miscommunication on the German army at that point was that great. They could have been shooting at each other and they didn't even realize it.
We don't know the overall picture. We have no idea what happened. And then we finally marched into Holland. The street was open between the town and the woods where that forest where we were supposed to go into. And it was kind of exposed, you know. And the Allies always flew 8 fighter planes roaming in the sky. They had total sky superiority. And we had to get across that open space, and those guys were flying around there saying, if we go in the column over there, they see us and they're gonna mow us down. So,
Right.
but if you go one guy every 100 feet, they may not even pay attention to us. So it came my time to go across, and the guy paid attention to me.
Oh, wow.
And he came and started shooting at me, and I went into that deep ditch. And as soon as he went past me, I got out and run down toward the woods, and when I came the other way, I jumped back in the ditch. And finally got wise. Instead of going across, he came down alongside the ditch and just unloaded. Bullets flying behind me and in front of me. I mean, there was bullets flying every way. So he got up and I ran, and I didn't go back in the ditch. I went all the way into the woods.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of nasty. But I hate Mustangs to this day.
There's nothing more powerful than creating a track. But sometimes creating music can be challenging. When I'm blocked or just getting an idea out, I need inspiration. That's why I trust Arcade. It's an instrument.
That's crazy.
We were in the
I wouldn't much care for him either way. He is very lucky he survived that situation.
We were in Ramsdorf. That was my buddy and I. We were up at one end of town, and we had a bazooka. The tank came down the street, and they started shooting. And we run behind those big logs there, you know, and they couldn't hit us there. He pulled that trigger, and when he hit, it said, woof. He got that warhead right between the tracks in the body. And he just blew the hell out of it, the inside, and nothing moved anymore after that.
Damn.
There was another thing that was up the...
I love hearing the story, but it's sad to think because that's a whole group of American boys that never made it home, or British fellas that never made it home, you know? They never got to see their mom again. They never got to see their girl again or whatever.
He got that warhead right between the tracks in the body. And he just blew the hell out of it, the inside, and nothing moved anymore after that. There was another thing that was up the street, and we standing in there kind of looking down the street, see what we could do. And he said, I'm going to go on the other side of the street because it was curved a little bit, he could see better. He said, don't go over there, that tank is up there. And while I was in the middle in the street, that tank shot one round right between his legs.
Oh, wow. So not listening
I
to
went
him.
over there and got him. The shrapnel went into his uniform and ripped his chest open. And he was sitting with his butt in the street, and he said, and then he collapsed.
So not listening to him saved your life. That's what did it. That's what made it to where you could live to see this day.
With his butt in the street, and he said, and then he collapsed. When we marched into Ramsdorf first earlier, the company commanders told us, they say, you go point to make sure everything is all right. Way later on, after we were supposed to move out, they said, man, we probably want to point again, you know, if we the first one on it. And the company commander said, you're the rear guard. So they said, no, you don't want to be on the rear on the way out, you want to be front. But anyway, there was an open field and they wanted to march into the woods. And what we were way behind as a rear guard, they walked into a trap. The Americans, they already were on three sides.
Wow.
And they waited till the whole battalion marched in there and they mowed them down.
I think this man might be the luckiest German soldier who served in World War II.
They marched in there and they mowed them down.
That is crazy.
So the four of us, we went off to the right into the woods and disappeared in the woods. And that's how we ended up behind enemy lines.
Oh, he was captured?
Gert and his three comrades were on their own, disoriented and desperately searching for ever elusive friendly territory.
And then when we finally got into Dülmen, it was daylight, and there was a 6-foot fence, a chain link fence. They said, well, that must be a park. Nobody is fighting in the park, so we're going to be pretty safe. So we got over and climbed over that 6-foot fence. GIs walking all over the place there. And they saw us and they started shooting at us.
Right.
They had a 2.5 truck with machine guns on there. They came around and started shooting at us with that. And then we said, we got to get out of this park. So we jumped over the fence. Then there was tanks on the outside. They said, that ain't not safe either. Let's jump back in the fence. We jumped back over that 6-foot fence. And then that truck came and started shooting at us. We went back over the fence again and went in the other direction. And we saw a pine forest over there. And they said, let's get into that forest and get the heck out of here.
Right.
And we crawled on our stomach, and we finally got into the woods, and they came after us. And they said, well, let's hide behind the trees till they go. And if they don't see us, they might go away. And they came and I stood behind a tree. You know, we all stood behind each one of those trees. It was just big enough to hide us. And they said, what I'm gonna do, you know, if we can't run, they're gonna start shooting at us. And I finally, I put my hand out and waved, you know, say, hi. And they said, come on out, you know, hands up, hands up. And that's how we got captured.
I can't believe how lucky this man was. The fact that he didn't get shot by that plane, he didn't get blown up by the tank, the one truck that was driving around, or the other tank on the other side of the wall, or shot when he was first saw the GIs. Yeah, that's incredible. Like, some people have just amazing luck, you know?
That's how we got captured.
Some people run fast enough.
Now in American custody, intended for relocation to a POW camp in the United States, Gert began the long journey across Europe. From prison camp to prison camp, he passed the time by drawing pictures to document his experiences. But before Gert would reach the French coast, Germany surrendered, the war came to an end, and the prisoners were sent back to their homes.
Were they just released and like, all right, walk back to Germany? Is that what?
The Germany Gert returned to was very different than he remembered. Hitler was gone, the Nazi Party dissolved, and Gert himself had acquired a fresh perspective.
I didn't realize how bad it was, but then after the war, everything came democratic, you know, and
Plus, you were a kid, dude. You were 10 years old when you were like, all right, you're in this group where we're going to brainwash you, you know? Like, you're very, because I've seen interviews with some older German soldiers before, and they don't have the same mindset, you know? Some of them are stuck in the ways of what they were taught when they were children.
I didn't realize how bad it was, but then after the war, everything came democratic, you know, and peaceful. And I said, wait a minute, that's a hell of a lot different than what we went through all that, you know. I didn't know about the full extent of the concentration camp because that was kept so well secret, you know, that we heard about it, you know, but they said that's where murderers go in and wife beaters, you know, and they supposed to be rehabilitated, but they didn't do that. Wow. And I didn't know the full extent till I came to the United States.
I didn't know what they thought was going on in like the German soldiers. I have no idea what they thought. So it is nice to learn what they were being told.
You know, but they said that's where murderers go in and wife beaters, you know, and they supposed to be rehabilitated, but they didn't do that. And I didn't know the full extent till I came to the United States.
The impact.
Following the war, Gert immigrated.
That's the impact that one madman can have on the world.
Full extent till I came to the United States.
Following the war, Gert immigrated to the U.S., served with the Army, and went on to a career in aerospace engineering, working alongside Werner von Braun.
Oh, he was part of NASA.
Gert served his country honorably in the Second World War, but like all of those who survived, regardless of what side, he hopes to one day live in a world free of violent conflict.
War is the stupidest thing that man invented.
Yeah.
If you can't talk it out, if you cannot communicate, you start fighting. You have to do away with your problem. You have to annihilate your problem. But that is not a solution. Yeah, that just create more problems.
Right.
Don't fight, talk it out. There got to be a solution. There is always a solution.
Yeah, that was incredible to watch. That gave me a lot of different emotions. It gave me a lot of new information on like just the point of view and the perspective of the German soldiers from World War II. Um, if you would like to see me continue doing these videos, let me know in the comments. I I would really enjoy going further into these videos and learning more stories. And I even think they have a like a Vietnam and Korean series that they do. I've always been a major history buff. I've always loved learning about World War II. So I think this would be really cool to do. And if you guys want to be in on it, that would be amazing to journey through these incredible people's stories and learn the sacrifices they made and the things that they did. Other than that, though, let me know what you guys want to see next on here. And if you've seen Memoirs of World War II and there's a really incredible story that you want me to watch next, leave that in the comments. Other than that, though, you all have an amazing rest of your day. We'll catch you at the next one. Peace.